come up with a really solid idea with the customer in the room that just really simplified it, boiled it back down to the basics. And, we were able to go from 6 raw materials and a really complex design to 2 raw materials and something that can be made in a matter of folds and maybe 1 or 2 welds. It was just really cool to see the customer kind of shift his mindset and be really open to our ideas and work with us. And again, really fun day to just sit in the room and hash out that problem.
Welcome to another episode of Inspiring Innovation. Today we have a jack of all trades. He's a wood carver, he's a unicycler, he's a bird watcher, and I actually made all of those things up. So maybe one of those things is true, but we're excited to have our new product development manager, Sam Miller, on the podcast today. So thanks for joining us, Sam.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Sean. Yeah, I mean, you're not too far off on some of those. Do a little bit of woodworking, and I've watched the occasional bird or two. So need to break out the unicycle. I'll practice for next time.
Perfect. Yeah, that'll be a good podcast actually if we can get some unicycles going.
Right.
And you and Alan can get together about bird watching. He's
right.
He's into that.
Yeah, for sure. It might have inspired that hobby.
Well, I like to throw a little bit of a curveball into everything, and so got to spend a little time with you with a customer this week, and want to know what the next trip is you have a VW van, right? And do a little bit of exploring. What's the next one on the docket?
So we actually just got back from a quick long weekend in South Dakota. That was a blast. Went over,
Nice.
Did Needles Highway, stayed in Custer State Park, Deadwood, that whole thing. I still think that next one is get up to Canada, Banff. We want to do like Tetons, go through Glacier and then up to Banff. Maybe Jasper, Banff, and come back down. So
Yeah, I actually just saw a podcast recently from a local business, and they had an event out at Banff, and they said it's just, beautiful, like postcard-esque pictures in every direction that you look. So, yeah, I think that would be a pretty sweet trip. So glad to have you on today. So if you could give an OEM one piece of advice for developing a product, what would that be?
With this one, I'm going to have to start with the end in mind. What I mean by there is, think about how this product is going to be made. Think about it's going to be tested, it's going to be used right at the beginning of the concept phase. The faster you can loop in manufacturing and the quality aspect of it from the beginning, there's going to be fewer surprises down the road and just lead to an overall better result.
100%. Yeah, I know there's customers that we've tried to get ahead of that on because, they might have some load-bearing weights that a strap on a backpack needs to hold, or, something about like burst testing that is supposed to hold for so many seconds. And it's fun to watch you guys and get around the table with other engineers to really build on ideas and make it more manufacturable and make it cheaper and find cost savings that doesn't impact the form or function or, the different aspects of what they're trying to achieve with the actual use of their product. So that's one of my favorite parts of the job is seeing you guys come up with solutions and troubleshoot and come up with some cool ideas. Recently, I saw some origami happening with a customer.
That was definitely a talking point later on in here for one of the questions I had.
Oh, good.
It was an awesome experience. So super fun. I would agree. Bringing the new concepts to life and just working with the customers to make that happen is two of my favorite things about working in the product development department.
Can you talk a little bit to our 3 capabilities and how that can sometimes intersect on different projects that we're working on? So for our audience, we do radio frequency sealing, impulse welding, different types of sealing, but primarily sealing, sewing, and thermoforming. So, Sam, can you speak to how some of those capabilities may interact on a single product, complementary products even?
You know, a great example of this one right here is, again, Sean and I visited a customer this week, and they had this product already existing in the market. It actually touches most of these categories. And previously, in their previous supply chain, they would send it to one company out and they would go do their welding. Then they'd send it back to IME, and then it would get sent to a different vendor to complete the sewing. Then it would come back to the customer, and then they would do their final pack out. Since Polo was able to do all three of those manufacturing processes, we were able to offer a one-stop shop. We could take that product in, we could weld it, sew it, and then do the final pack out. And to take that even one step further, there's customers that we actually even do, we even act as the warehouse for. We do our direct shipping to customers. So, with having all those capabilities under one roof, it really allows us to be creative in how we manufacture product. And as Sean was saying earlier, right, just because a product comes into us a certain way doesn't mean that's how it has to be built. So with all those processes or tools in our toolkit, we're able to make a product better and faster and oftentimes cheaper just by utilizing different tools.
Yeah, when we can be that one-stop shop and take care of everything, I think it just cuts out all these different suppliers and vendors' margins, and be really convenient for our customers to just manage one supplier in the process. And so definitely a unique customer, a lot of fun to get out there to Cleveland and visit them, and somebody that's giving Polo a shot at basically manufacturing all of their devices and products. So it's fun to see you guys work through some of the sampling and the technical aspects of bringing that to life. Can you explain the importance of design for manufacturability?
Yeah, so this is, kind of to the point of the first question. Design for manufacturability is what it says there, right? Let's say I have my iPhone right here, and I want it to have a robotic arm or something coming out of here that's using, let's say 10 different fastener types, a million different kinds of weld type to do this very unique function. Can it probably be manufactured? Yes. Or, can you make it the one-off prototype type thing? Sure. But design for manufacturability really means, how can I make this one product, and how can I do it thousands, millions of times over and over again while ensuring quality standards? So like I said, there, it's just to really, simplify a product to the basic needs of that requirement to kind of deliver the best result.
There's a concept that I'm probably going to butcher that might be worth touching on, but when it comes to sealing, sometimes we have turntables with multiple stations on it, and I think that's maybe called a progressive load. And so there's a lot of ways that we've just really enhanced efficiency in the manufacturing process and really helped, the design in the process. So anything you might want to add to that?
Just to touch on that, for an example, this is kind of a blend of the last two, but we recently had a product come in, and they're using a heat sealed tape to bond all these layers of material, right? They're kind of laminating all this material together to create their radiation blanket is what they're working on. And they were using the heat sealed tape, and basically they'd stack up all their layers in the lamination, and then they'd essentially put it in a big oven or t-shirt press for 10 to 20 minutes to make one seal, and then they'd move on to the next one and do another seal. So by the time you had one product go through, you had probably 3 hours man hours in that one product. And with our team, we were able to say, well, why do we even need this heat tape? Why can't we just put it in an RF machine and be able to bond all these layers together that way? So to Sean's point, right, sometimes you can stack up all those operations on a turntable to increase efficiency. But in this case, we were able to remove the heat tape, throw it in an RF machine, and what used to take 30 minutes, now it takes 30 seconds. And that's just another example of that design for manufacturability and how we can increase that efficiency to, make thousands versus just that single prototype.
Yeah, that's a great example. And I'm not sure if it's the same customer or product, but it sounds like the customer is going to realize some cost savings with all the labor coming out of that and just the time coming out of that step. But also, I think the sales guys at the company are really excited for the new version to come out and don't want to sell the old stuff that they've been making in-house. So
yeah, Yeah, that's been another really fun one to work on.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So that's one of those success stories that we just love to hear and love the excitement that comes out of the customers. And it's what Polo's here for, is just to support the growth and success of our customers at the end of the day. Along those lines, can you share an example of a complex project that you were able to simplify for a customer?
Yeah, so here's that one where I was waiting to bring up that origami earlier. This is one of my favorite days working at Polo. It's just a really fun opportunity to work with the customer to get in a room together and just start problem solving. The customer came to us with a fairly unique product, new to world type offering, I guess, let's call it that. And the product uses probably 6 different raw materials with a handful of off the shelf things that they were had bought on Amazon. Very complex designs and custom thermoform tools, and very beautiful product at the end of the day for what they were able to do in the kind of this prototype stage. And selfishly, I wanted to say yes, I want to design these cool complex tools to make this beautiful part. But in the grand scheme of thing, we needed the potential of this product is millions, not hundreds, not thousands, not hundreds of thousands, it's millions. So you need to be able to make a lot of these, and pennies matter when you're talking millions. So as we're all sitting in the room with the customer and looking at that beautiful product, and we start taking apart the layers and really just boil it down to what that product needs to do. And there was myself and another engineer in the room, and we kind of just looked at it and said, let's go get a piece of paper real quick. And next thing you know, we start folding the piece of paper and come up with a really solid idea with the customer in the room that just really simplified it, boiled it back down to the basics. And we were able to go from 6 raw materials and a really complex design to 2 raw materials and something that can be made in a matter of folds and maybe 1 or 2 welds. It was just really cool to see the customer kind of shift his mindset and be really open to our ideas and work with us. And again, really fun day to just sit in the room and hash out that problem.
Yeah, it's the coolest thing to nerd out on, getting engineers together. So anyone that's watching this that's got a design challenge, then bring it on to Polo, because it is, I've heard engineers say, what I've been doing in isolation, I got more done in 3 hours here than I got done in 3 weeks working back in the lab at my company, in the R&D area and stuff. And so it is a really cool product too, without sharing too much. I mean, it's something that will be able to screen for disease and a disease that's very prevalent. And so that hence the millions of units and a real challenge that the world's facing today. And Sam and Andrew and our customer, who's an engineer, we're just enhancing that design so that it would be able to get out to market and be lower cost, so that governments can afford it and things like that, and NGOs that would be utilizing it. So just incredibly rewarding. And I would say too, there was times where you're folding papers, then you're putting it onto a design on the screen on the TV, and the customer's talking about the technical specs and what's going to be needed and if you can do that or this, and so just watching you guys go from concept to design was really, really a cool thing.
To your point, yeah, we took it to that piece of paper to a feasible design that was probably 85% complete in that matter of 3 hours. Yeah, Andrew was creating the patterns as we were speaking, right there with AutoCAD, and the customer was talking through ways to test this. And to the point of earlier, right, like we were adding in that design for manufacturability and that quality aspect. We were kind of thinking through it right then, even in that first 3 hours of the idea phase, let's call it, or the prototyping or the ideation.
Yeah. So again, I just encourage customers to come out and do it, because there's something with the nature of this work, you can't really do that over Zoom. I mean, you can look at videos, you can look at drawings, you can play around with materials in-house or samples that come in-house, but when you get around the table with our product development team in Monticello, Iowa, magic happens. So
yeah, and that's one of my favorite things. I love getting to build those relationships with the customers and having them come in and like Sean said, there's, you can only do so much over Zoom. We love jumping on those Teams calls, but the customer visits, whether we're going there or the customers coming here, that's really where the magic happens and products come to life.
Yeah, great stuff. Now, Sam, with medical devices, with safety products, with aviation products, and all these different governing bodies, essentially that work with us, and how complex these products are and the processes to qualify them. You have a big cross-functional group of people that you work with and different teams. So you've got sales, you've got supply chain, you've got quality, you've got manufacturing. So how do you and your product development team work across all those different factions and stakeholders to ensure a smooth process as we're developing something with a customer?
Yeah, I think the big thing there is...
But before we get into that, this podcast is brought to you by Polo Custom Products. We are a custom manufacturer that specializes in sewing, sealing, and thermoforming. We work with project engineers, sourcing professionals, and buyers to design, engineer, and manufacture products that cannot afford to fail. If you're interested in working with us, visit our website at www.polocustomproducts.com and fill out a request for quote form. Now, back to the show.
Communication, right? Communication is key. Like Sean had said, it's not only just multiple teams within our company, it's at multiple locations. Communication is key, along with clarity, right? You can communicate something, but there's a million different ways people can interpret that information. So we try to reciprocate that information back and forth to make sure everybody's on the same page to understand, where this product needs to go. Along with that, we're integrating all those teams as soon as we can in the process, because the more that those other departments are able to hop on and get your buy-in on the product, the easier their job becomes in the future. For example, we'll go grab our quality specialist right when a new product comes in the door a lot of times, just because they think it a problem quite a bit different than the design guy or new product guy, right? They're going to approach it with, well, does this product need to be validated? Does this need to be FDA certified? They're going to come with questions like that versus, we're going to look at that thing and like, does this need to go through an RF press? Is this going to be thermoformed? Is this going to be sewn? They just bring different questions to the table, and it's really helpful to have them on board. Just really encourage that open communication, and that's one thing that I love about, our Polo team too, that everybody is collaborative. It's a very fun place to be. It's one of those things where you can just go knock on the door and, hey, you got 5 minutes, I need help doing this, and you're never going to be turned away.
There's a lot of handoffs. There's tons of steps. Things need to be ordered, sourced.
Yeah,
So
to that point, we do kind of work. Yeah, we work with a phase gate system. That's the meat and potatoes of everything, right? So communication and all that's great, but to back that up, the structure of our design process, we have a phase gate process that we follow with very controlled, steps along the way that we need to take with sign-offs, documentation. Basically, you can't go to that next phase unless all these steps are complete. And then all those files get organized in our system, basically, to ensure you've completed that phase.
All the handoffs that happen in the baton passing, how do you guys make sure, people are still carrying the baton and keeping things moving forward?
Yeah, so the big thing here is we hold each other accountable. Our team is all well versed with that process and what needs to be done. So we're able to kind of hold each other accountable and build each other up. Along with that, right, if you're kind of falling behind or, you're swamped, another team member is going to come up, hey, I'm a little light this week. What can I help you with to make sure you're hitting your goals and meeting those timelines and deadlines? Along with that, our PCs, they're project coordinators, and they almost act as project managers. They do a great job at holding people accountable and making sure all the tasks are assigned and completed on time.
I'm going to shift gears here a little bit and ask you, what are some common challenges that you see our OEMs coming to us with, and how does Polo help them overcome those challenges?
So a lot of the common challenges that we're seeing today are just longer lead times and materials, obviously compliance requirements, and then just like with the coordinating with the multiple suppliers. For example, again, going back to that customer we just visited, we were able to simplify their supply chain quite a bit by just bringing it down to one vendor versus multiple. Another aspect of that is, some of these metal companies, they have smaller teams and they don't necessarily have the resources to take on things like the FDA or doing validations and all the medical requirements that come with that field. We're able to assist them in bringing that product to life and making sure that it meets all these requirements.
Yeah, that's a good point. Kind of bleeds into our next question here too, which is like, how do you balance being innovative with some of those regulatory requirements or validation processes? I mean, I think about some of our customers put a steel strength test that really doesn't have any functionality around it. Like, it's like, does it have to withstand that much weight? Is anybody going to pull on these, or any force is ever going to pull that hard on this particular product? And the answer from the customer is no. But that was just, what we thought was a good thing at the time when we put that criteria together. And so some things are required, but some things, you can be innovative on or tweak or make more manufacturable. So how do you balance innovation versus all the regulatory requirements that we operate within?
These two really go hand in hand, right? You have the creativity side and then the compliance side. And like Sean was saying, the innovative side, that's really important. You need to have those ideas to take the products to the next step. You're kind of using your compliance and your requirements as your Bible or your gospel, right, that you're following. That's how you're basically taking those products. Here's your requirements that you need to have. And again, that's just problem solving, in my opinion. Here's the structure. Here's the 5 things you need to hit. You have freedom on everything else to hit those things as long as you're meeting these 5 requirements. So it does make for some unique challenges, but again, that's the fun of what we do here. It's just another little problem to solve.
So yeah, another way to slice it up is how does prototyping, sampling, and testing play a role in our development process?
Yeah, so the prototype and testing phase, they're huge in our process. A lot of times, a customer will come in and say, I want this product and I want it now. You can go ahead and skip the sampling phase. It's a fairly straightforward product. That
reminds me of that commercial that I want my money and I want it now.
Yeah, yeah. Is that the General?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our customers can have a similar flair sometimes too.
Yep. But a lot of times, everything's really learned in that prototyping and sampling phase. A lot of times that's where the cost saving ideas come into part. Or for example, in that product I was talking about earlier, the radiation blanket, right? They had a concept. They said, run with it, quote it this way. This is how I want it. During that sampling phase, that's how we actually discovered that, wait, these are RF weldable. We can remove raw materials. We can take out labor steps and deliver a better result. And that's where Sean was saying, right? Once the sales team the customer sales team got that product, it was all hands on deck. We need these things now because they're just there's a better looking product. They're prettier. It's just going to be an easier sell for the team. So that really kind of turned the gas on that one. But during that prototyping stage, we're not only walking through our manufacturing process and creating our instructions, we're also finding, holes in the design that can be improved on or ways to make it more efficient. Same with the testing, right? You want to do that testing early on. To Sean's point there, we had made a backpack type product that needed to meet a 200-pound pull requirement. And if we wouldn't have tested that till the first production run, we probably would have got ourselves in a little bit of trouble there. But since we prototyped it, we played with our stitches, right? Everybody's seen a box X on a backpack or a strap like that. It's a stitched box with an X going through it, and you could just put a simple box X there. But once we tested it, we realized we were 20 pounds short of our 200-pound pull test. So we were able to go back in and play with our stitches per inch, play with the amount of rows of stitching, and do things to alter that in that prototyping and testing phase to meet that requirement. So again, the prototyping or the sampling and the testing phase, that's really critical to delivering a great quality product at the end.
To wrap it up too, what's the most rewarding part about bringing these products into the world?
I really think the most rewarding part is doing that problem solving, again, and working with that customer to develop their product. They're coming with that brand new to life world, and it's just really fun to see how excited they are about these products and how their idea is going to change the world, right? And we get to help them do that. Again, one of my favorite days at Polo was when that customer came in and we sat down and completely changed the way his product was, and just to see the, you know, the smile on his face walking out of Polo that day, like, oh my gosh, this, you know, never thought a cornfield or a little building in a cornfield could be so much fun. Definitely worth the trip. And yeah, it's just really working with those customers and meeting their needs and delivering that product that at the end of that everybody's happy with.
Yeah, that's awesome and well said. I mean, it's neat that some of these products go on to, you know, solve a world health issue, save lives, protect first responders, protect the armed forces, you know, serve them in some way, shape, or form. And so it's awesome to be at the table with really the inventors that are bringing that to life. It's awesome to realize cost savings where at the end of the day, it's consumers and insurance that are floating the bills for the end product. And so, you know, if we can make it a little bit cheaper, more functional or more comfortable or whatever, you know, it's making a difference out there. So it's a really exciting line of work.
Yeah, to your point, you know, we're building life-saving devices, and that alone is rewarding. You know, it seems like if not monthly or if not weekly, maybe monthly, we're getting a, you know, customer testimonial. Hey, this product that you guys helped create or, you know, came out of one of your facilities is saving a life today. And you get to, you know, experience that real world connection to, you know, the impact that you're making every day, right? It's easy to get lost in that day-to-day mundane activity, but when you get to hear what you're doing every day and how it impacts the world, it's really touching.
Yeah, and I think even, you know, our associates get into that. You know, we like to share those stories. And I actually heard yesterday that there's a new use for one of our products. We put in a country code in our ERP system this past week for Kenya. And so one of our products is going to Kenya, and I actually heard that they are doing some trial work with saving women that are giving birth that had been bleeding out, essentially. And so this product is testing and having really great early results with saving lives in that way. Another just awesome story of what these products are going out in the world and doing. Be proud of the work you do, Sam. We're glad you're on the team. You add tons of value to our customers. I think you're a good leader too of the product development team, and that's a really fun and exciting crew of young people that are helping innovate the products that are going out into the world.
It's a great team. Love working with them, and again, it's just really cool to see what their brains can come up with and how they can, you know, solve new problems every day. They never cease to amaze me in how they can approach a problem and make it come to life.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you being on board. We're glad you're with Polo, and you know, just work on those unicycle skills, and we'll
next time, hold me to it.
We'll get you back.
Alrighty.
All right. Thanks, Sam.